I welcome the opportunity to speak this motion, and this is the third such motion, and they've all been ruled out by the government by their vote. I'm unhappy with a piecemeal approach to the housing crisis, but I find myself unable not to support this motion, although I think it's discriminatory and it's not targeted, although it's calling for a targeted scheme from the government and it doesn't say for how long. But I have no choice but to support this, given the crisis that now the Minister has confirmed in his speech that there are over 27,000 in serious arrears, and that's of the 100,000 that went over to the vulture funds in the beginning, and he's acknowledged in his speech that an increasing number of householders are going to be in trouble, and he sets out some very minor changes that the various banking entities are going to take, and I welcome that. However, it has to be realised that we're in this situation because of housing policy, over and over and over. And since my election in 2016, I and my colleagues have repeatedly asked the government to change their policy. And I've watched documents come forward, the names of them just mingle in my head, with the exact same approach, just slightly different language, based the market will provide. And when the market doesn't provide, which it has utterly failed to provide, homes and houses, then we jump in to save them. I have lost track of the number of schemes that this government and the previous government have brought in. The Help to Buy scheme, which you constantly praise, has helped, I think, over a third of the people availing of that did not need help. They simply did not need help. That's set out in the various analysis done by it. That's just one of the many schemes, along with the HAP scheme, along with the RAS scheme, that have helped to keep the prices of houses artificially high. The price of houses is an obscenity. It's simply an obscenity that we're helping people with a first-time grant to buy houses that are £500,000. That is not sustainable. The prices of houses in Ireland, including my own, has to come down. And we need to have active engagement by the state in providing public housing on public land. We're not doing that either. We've put in another layer of bureaucracy with the Land Development Agency. We've further deprived the local authorities of their capability to use their resources to build houses, and so on, and we keep doing it. And if we try to analyse that as best we can in a rational manner, you tell us we're against everything, or we're against home ownership. I'm fortunate enough to own my home. If people want to own their home, I will fully support them. But what I want from government is a provision of choices, that we give people the choice to rent at a controlled rent, as well as the options to buy houses at a reasonable price. And we are not doing that. We're putting over £1 billion a year into the market, into landlords' pocket. And again, if I mention the word landlord, we're accused of being anti-landlord. We need landlords. We absolutely need landlords. But what we need is a strong policy from the government that says a home is not something to be traded on the market. And so that's what we've done. We've made it into a commodity to be traded. And then I look at this motion, and I'm supporting this motion, but I want to thank the Parliamentary Budget Office for producing a background in relation to the bank levy, which is very interesting and has helped my understanding of it. And it came in before my time as a TD in 2014. It was supposed to be temporary. It has been renewed since then. It was supposed to bring in 150 million per year. It hasn't done that. It was down to, I think, 86.7 million in 22, for various reasons, because of the way it's measured, and because we allowed the banks that exited us, the Ulster Bank and the other bank, they were exempted from it. Why? Because if we tried to put a levy on them, they would run even quicker and leave us in a mess. And where are we now? This tells us that because of European Central Bank raising the interest rate 10 times, as been pointed out in this motion, the banks and the credit institutions are making obscene profits that are not being passed on. It was never passed on to the people that saved, so there was no interest for their deposit, and they kept it. And no government has seen fit to say, this is wrong. These are the banks that we bailed out. And again, very helpful, the Budget Office tells us what the bank levy was first introduced in 2014. As I said, it was supposed to bring in 150 million. And why? Because of the financial crisis, that the banks were instrumentally an integral part of it. And consequently, the state decided to bring in the banking levy. Why? Because they had given over 29 billion to 3 banks, and they'd given 35 billion to the defunct Anglo-Irish Bank. That's the background here that we're forgetting about in relation to why the levy was brought in. And it shows us and points out clearly that as a result of the changes in the interest rate, that is absolutely helping them to make profit. So I stand here as someone who's not an accountant, has no financial background, and I try and I read and I struggle. And what I see here is that ordinary people are caught up in an obscene game in the markets, in the financial markets, and where profits can be made by the European Central Bank increasing the interest rates, ostensibly to control inflation, but allowing the banks to increase their profits and not pass it on, and allowing vulture funds to buy up over 100,000 loan and cause absolute distress to the householders. And I'm here tonight and I'm telling you clearly that I don't like this type of motion, not that I'm unhappy with Sinn Féin, but that we would need this type of motion. It has to be targeted and it has to be specific, but it has to be an overall package of transformation in saying the government has the primary responsibility, both in policy and in actual houses on the ground, to determine where we're going as a country.